Welcome. My name is Kendra Morgan, and I'm the host of the Rise and Build podcast, where we hope to empower you to rise up and build a strong family, knowing you have to strengthen your hands to do the good work. Come with us as we rise and build. Hey, you guys, welcome to the Rise and Build podcast. I'm super excited about today. We are talking about adults. I know we normally talk about children, but I am sitting across from Amber Thaxton, and she is going to share with us about counseling philosophies and how to help you guys have joy for today and hope for tomorrow. Hi, Amber.
Hi, Kendra.
Okay, so before I want our listeners to know about you, but before we get started, I met you not very long ago. And so we have a dear friend in common, Dr. Reed, Terry Reed. And so she was like, Kendra, you have to meet my friend, Joy. She calls you Joy.
Yes.
Because I've learned your close friends call you Joy. And man, the minute I heard you stand up and speak, I knew I wanted you on this podcast because one, you carry yourself really well, very knowledgeable, but I could see that you deal with a lot of families that struggle and you know how to get them to that next step. And so that is what we're going to talk about today. But first, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. So, as you mentioned, my close friends call me Joy, which I really love that because everyone gets a middle name and then it becomes your secret name for some reason. Yes. And so I love when people call me Amber. Most people know me by Amber professionally. And my friends call me Joy because when I moved from California to Oklahoma to attend Oral Roberts University, my sister actually brought me because she's a lot older than me. So she brought me over. When we're setting up my dorm room, she actually calls me Joy. And then everyone on my floor started to call me Joy. Okay. So then when I went to church, people called me Joy. But then when I signed my papers, I signed Amber. So everyone professionally began to call me Amber and friends called me Joy. So I've just kept that. It drives a lot of people crazy because they're like, which one? Yeah. And I'm like, they're me. And so really, I'm excited to be on this podcast because when I met you, I felt the same way. I was like, oh my gosh, it's something about her. Like, I want her to be my best friend. Oh,
I love it.
But I was like, I'm too busy to build more relationships. Yeah. But I love the opportunity that I've gotten to connect with you, to learn what you do, to hear about your vision, your heart for kids and families. And similar to you, I have just learned that to live a joy-filled life, I had to learn, like, what is it that God has created me to do? Yeah. And how do I figure out how to do that every single day? Yeah. And I have. And so my goal is honestly to live a joy-filled life. And that looks like living every single day with purpose and knowing that I don't have to have it all together. Living in that balance is everything for me.
I love it. Well, so let's talk about that because, and I love that we're talking about adults because we're building all children, like that's what we're about. But what comes along with children is parents and caretakers and adults and families. And we are seeing more and more of our families, struggling with anxiety, high level of anxiety. And so you are an LPC, so you're a licensed professional counselor. Yes. You also are the founder of Joy Christian Counseling. So you provide Christian counseling, which we love. And we've referred a couple families to you guys, and it's been incredible. So I can brag about that. But could you talk to me about, are you seeing more and more adults with anxiety?
Well, I see, let's talk about anxiety as a whole. Anxiety has really gained a really bad reputation. Okay. Anxiety is our body's protective biological reaction to danger. We need that.
Okay, I love that.
The issue is what we perceive as danger.
Okay.
And when I'm tired, when I'm not giving myself what I need in terms of like just self-care, everything seems dangerous. My kid asking me for a snack for the 10th time feels like the demand on me is more than the resources that I have to offer. Okay. And so when we talk about anxiety, it's really important for us to understand, one, that God created our bodies fearfully and wonderfully.
Love that.
And there's a mechanism inside of us that helps us to keep ourselves safe when we're in danger. The issue is when we're not perceiving danger healthily, that's the problem. Okay. And so when you talk about parents and caregivers experiencing high levels of anxiety, I think we're experiencing low levels of self-care.
Okay. So is that kind of one thing you recommend is for, because I feel like I have mixed feelings with that. I feel like we're kind of selfish people naturally, like, right? We're all born sinners. We're naturally selfish. So there for a while, I felt like we were so focused on ourselves and self-care that I almost felt like my moms were doing so much self-care. You know what I'm saying? So is there a balance with that?
I do. I think that going back to living a purpose-driven life, purpose can't come from within. Purpose has to come from the one that designed the object, the person. And so as people, we have to really find our source and our purpose in God. So when I'm taking care of myself, I have to go to God and ask him, what does it look like for me to be healthy? And he says to love me first and to love people. Yeah. And I know in order for me to love God, I have to make time. I have to really be around people who are a little bit smarter than me and help me to understand this ancient text. Like there's a lot that goes into loving and understanding God. To love someone means to try to understand them, to grow in intimacy with them. So there's some work that goes into that. And not that you're earning, but that you're putting an effort for.
Yeah.
And then the second thing Jesus says in Matthew is to love people. Yeah. And to love people is challenging. Like you said, our nature is to love ourselves.
Right.
And I think that to love others well also means to be mindful of who are they? Yeah. What do they need? How can I best connect with them? And that also takes some intentionality. Yeah. So when we talk about self-care, if I'm going to take care of myself well and I'm doing it purposefully, I'm keeping those two things in mind because that's for me, that helps me to live missionally.
Yeah, no, I love it. That it's beautiful because I think sometimes we think self-care is like, let's go get a pedicure, let's go to the spa, which is important too. I mean, it is good to take care of us, but it's also feeding our body good, right? We're the temple and So
because how can we go get a pedicure if we're low on energy? We can't get out the bed. To take care of ourselves really is beyond just the external. How are we presenting, picture perfect? But how are we making sure that we are functioning well so that I can serve God with my heart, mind, soul? Like he said, everything. Yeah. And then how can I love people well unless I'm taking care of, like you said, the inside and the outside? Yeah. So I think self-care, again, kind of like anxiety, it got a bad rap because we made it something that was picture perfect. Right. And it was never meant to be something that you can really even take a picture of. True self-care, honestly, is really hard to even really capture because it's you taking time to get the full hours of sleep that you need. Right. Some people need 8, some people need 10. Yeah. It's hard to take a picture of that. But because of our culture, we want to do things that you can take pictures of, do things that you can promote. And at the end of the day, I think the best level of self-care is intentional, and that is not always something that you can package up in a bottle and, make it look pretty. It's sometimes just not taking the rollers out that day.
Right. Yeah.
Staying home.
Taking the pressure off of trying to get that picture and just focusing on you and your family is a big deal.
Absolutely. It's the simple things.
So what about burnout? The self-care is important. It kind of lowers that anxiety. We see that too, but we're having families, they're just burned out. Like they're going from activity to activity. They've got homework, there's no time. And we're seeing more and more families just kind of throwing their hands up and almost giving up on the things that we feel that is really important. So they're letting some discipline go away. They're letting, because they just can't fit it all in the day. What do you guys do for burnout?
So when I'm working with someone who's talking about feeling like they are just spent, we always go back to the basics.
Okay.
Which is, talk to me about your diet. Okay. What are we putting inside of our bodies to fuel us? Okay. Talk to me about your rest because it's very clear that our bodies need rest. Yeah. And if we can look to God who created everything in 6 days and use the 7th day to rest, like he models for us that there's a process to healthy living. And burnout oftentimes comes from us seeing a goal and us just working towards the goal versus considering, okay, but how does God want me to get to this goal? Something I tell my staff all the time is we want our work to run over, because if we complete everything in one day, we don't have a job to come back to tomorrow. So write it on the to-do list, and tomorrow we'll come back to it.
I love
but
that.
That's taken time for us to me to consider, like, okay, what does it look like to get an overview of what am I supposed to be doing with my time? I know for me personally, what I am supposed to be doing with my time is being a daughter of the Most High God. So I put that first in my day, because if I don't, it's not going to make it back into my day. I'm going to fill it with the demands of whoever's calling on me first when I put my feet on the floor. But then secondly, it's to make disciples. So I'm making sure that I'm loving my husband well. I'm making sure that I'm spending quality time with my kids outside of telling them to do their homework and to, train for their sport. Learning who they are as a person. So I think burnout oftentimes comes from being very goal oriented and not being very God oriented, where we're learning what is his mission for us in this season of life and how can I do it his way, because he requires me to rest.
Yeah. Okay, I love it. I love the faith piece that you provide, and how, because we're the same way. We do a ministry. So we believe that if you are in the Word and you turn to Scripture, chances are your day's going to be better, especially when you hit those bumps and you hit the roadblocks, right? But talk to me a little bit about, like, I know you provide several different, like, counseling sessions and therapy sessions. I know you do a lot of, like, cognitive behavioral therapy. Do you mind kind of what is that, and explain the process of that?
Sure. So when we're providing individual counseling to clients, we always utilize a approach.
Okay.
So approach would look like cognitive behavioral therapy is when we focus on three main components.
Okay.
What does one think? What does one feel? What does one do?
Okay.
And going back to that self-awareness and that overview of our day and making sure we're living purposefully. It's really hard to live purposefully if we don't take inventory of what we're thinking about and what we're feeling and what we're doing. Sometimes, you were mentioning burnout earlier, we can kind of just hit the ground running because we know we need to get the kids to school, we need to get them to practice, we need to get them fed something.
Yeah.
But if we start by just kind of considering, okay, what have I been feeling lately?
Yeah.
I've been feeling really tired. Okay, what's going into that tired? And then identifying the thought. When we can identify the thought, oftentimes we can take some time to really process if that thought is true. Well, my thought about why I'm feeling tired is everybody needs something from me. I am so tired because everyone constantly needs something from me. And then what is my action because of that? Well, I just do whatever is needed of me. And then we can kind of see, okay, there's a full picture. I'm feeling tired. I'm thinking that everyone needs things from me. And my response to it is just get it done.
Yeah.
And that is a pain cycle. And so what we do is we don't dismiss the feeling and we don't try to change it. I always say feelings are like Tulsa weather. They come and they go. They're going to stay.
Yeah.
You don't know how long. Just accept and acknowledge, this is how I feel. I feel tired. What we want to do is actually focus on the thought. The thought is, everyone needs something from me. Is that true? Does every single person need something from me? Just that statement alone can make us feel anxious.
Sure.
Because that feels dangerous, that everyone needs something from me.
Yeah.
We don't have the resources for everyone. Okay, who really needs something from me? Okay, my kids. Those are the people that are really pulling on me. And then I have some things at work that I need to do. Okay, now I'm putting things in perspective. Based on that, do I want to do anything different? Do I need to create a block schedule? Do I need to prioritize anything different? Do I need to say no to some things? And when we take time to consider what we think, we feel, and what we do, we can validate our feelings and acknowledge them. We can challenge what we're thinking, and then we can do something different.
So good. What about relationships? Like, we have so many families that their marriage is struggling, or we've even had a lot of moms lately that have just had a hard time bonding with their child. And so what do you do when just the relationships are struggling?
It depends what relationship. If we're looking at a mother and father, I always tell couples that good relationships just don't happen. And oftentimes we put the things that are most urgent at the top of our day versus the things that are most important.
Oh, that's good.
And when we take time to really consider that these children should be experiencing the benefit and the overflow of the love that's within this union, then we put a little bit of different time into it.
Yeah.
But I think what oftentimes ends up happening is we're responding to what's urgent. Our kids need our attention. They need food. They need direction. And though they need all those things, our marriage has needs too. I always say that whenever I'm working with couples, that I'm working with the person in the middle. I said, you guys are two large people that I'm trying to help you fit in a medium-sized shirt. So not both of you and all of you can fit. Parts of you aren't going to be able to survive in this marriage. But when we find that healthy harmony, then there's a beautiful thing that happens in the middle. So I'm here for the person in the middle. I'm not here for the husband. I'm not here for wife. I'm here for the oneness. And I really do believe when we prioritize that, I know it's cliche as it sounds, and I think people dismiss it because it sounds cliche, but it's true. You have to have times to go on dates.
Yeah. Right.
And we have a really amazing couples therapist, Haley Pettingale, and she helps couples go on dates regardless of your income, regardless of if you have a babysitter or not. And so one of the things that she has even taught me is when you put the kids to bed, you can pick out your card game. Have a few questions that you ask each other, and taking the resources that you have and making the most of them. Because we know as when our kids are young, my kids are 9 and 6, they're not always going to be that small.
Yeah.
They're not always going to be that small, but our marriage hopefully lasts beyond our kids being young, lasts beyond our kids being in the house. But if we want a really good marriage, we have to put really good time into it.
I love it.
And that means being intentional. So I think that's a very short answer for why I think sometimes our marriages are suffering. We just have lost touch of being intentional to love and honor and have quality time with our spouses. And our kids are similar as well. I think sometimes when we have dinner to make and we have a long day of work, it's easy to call on the babysitter, the TV or the tablet, and let them watch our kids. Yeah. But then often what happens too is our kids lose interest in us. So then when we say, how was school? And they're just like, good. Because that TV has not helped model feedback, conversation, feedback loops, then we're frustrated because we don't know how to necessarily get in touch. And so I think going back to them the husband and the wife, or the mom and dad, being able to model how to have healthy relationship and community in front of our kids gives our kids an opportunity to know, oh, when we're at the dinner table, we're not looking at TV. We don't have our phones out. We're actually looking each other in the eye, and there's some attunement happening, and we're connecting. If mom and dad are modeling that, it's going to make it a little bit easier for us to say, hey, kids, this is what we're asking of you too, because we're doing this. We also have emails to check and tablets we want to be on, but we're prioritizing connection. This is how we're inviting you to do it as well. And I love, I think Chick-fil-A at some point had little talk cards, conversation cards, and we use those. We would put them in the middle of our table and pick one up and just use it to foster conversation at dinner time. And it was low pressure, and we got to know a little bit more about one another.
I think it's so important. We ask every single family that comes through here if they enjoy mealtime together. And I bet 50, 60% don't. I think, again, it goes back to being busy and catching the drive-through on the way to soccer and all that. And we get that, right? But when my kids were middle school age, the around the table conversation is how we knew what was going on in their world. I mean, it really was. A lot of times as they especially even getting into high school, we didn't have the windshield time. We weren't in the car as much together. So high school years, the conversations around the table is how we really stayed kind of connected with their teachers and their friends. And so I do think it's just putting some of those basic things back throughout the day so that they can connect. Well, let's talk about connection, because this is how I quickly fell in love with you. Is I got invited to one of your what's it called?
Flourish.
Okay. So
it was a friendship mixer.
Okay. So I got invited to a friendship mixer that I had no friends there. So I literally walked in going, what am I going to? Why am I here? And so I just kind of looked around, and the first thing I noticed is it was very multicultural, diverse, and I loved it. And then two, I just started seeing people that knew people were connecting, people that were like me, walked in, didn't know anyone. I ended up connecting with a couple women that day. One, we had some stuff in common, friends in common that I didn't know, and then a complete stranger. So talk to me about connection. Why is connecting so important to you?
Man, it's so organic to me. I always tell people if I was not a therapist, I would be a matchmaker.
Okay. Okay.
And I think friendship is an opportunity to make matches. And you mentioned it being multicultural, and that is part of the vision of Flourish.
It was beautiful.
So Flourish, the whole mission of Flourish is to bring together women who are fit, fruitful, and faithful.
Love it.
And so that looks like making sure that we're not all the same, because if we're going to grow in any area of our life, or we're going to flourish, we're going to need people who are doing some things better than us. We want to put people in the room that are wanting to also grow. So maybe we can lead some people in some things. And then we also want different walks of life, different cultures in the room, because we know we're all representations of God. It's more beautiful in the room when we are all together and learning and gleaning and appreciating one another. So Flourish is just a girly moment where we kind of just get together, and we're not moms, we're not, like business owners. We are just girls. We're just getting to be friends and remember who we were before we start putting on all the hats.
Yes.
And so Flourish is one of my favorite programs that God has allowed me and inspired me to do. And we started it about 3 years ago. But like I said, it was really for women who I was working with in counseling and recognized, man, they have not prioritized friendship.
Yeah.
Because sometimes life is busy, but other times it's like, where do I find them?
I know.
Like, okay, I'm going to go to church. But even then you can go to church and you can sit next to people, you hear the sermon, and then you walk slowly through the lobby hoping someone makes eye contact with you. And you still are like, man, I'm not making connection. Mm-hmm. So Flourish became like, and I'm a natural, I say ambivert because I'm an introvert, meaning I enjoy meaningful conversation, but extrovert is challenging for me because I don't like small talk. And that's where I lose people when I go to like big group events. I'm going to pull you aside and we're going to have a good conversation in the corner.
I think that's why I like you so much, because afterwards we connected and it was like we connect, like it was a deep conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, quick.
Yeah.
Which I love.
Yeah.
So that's definitely, you're gifted in that. For sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I try to harness that. I know a lot of people who are introverts confuse that with shyness, and shyness and being an introvert are two different things.
Yeah.
Shy is about fear and practicing behaviors that cause you to be recluse, versus being an introvert is about what energizes you, and meaningful conversations energize me.
Yeah.
And when I have to stay on the surface, or I don't know how to get to know someone better, that can feel draining, and I can find myself feeling on the outside of social situations. So when I run events like Flourish, I always plan for the introvert. I like to have talking cards on the table. I like to invite people to, mingle and have conversations about like common things that connect us, like, maybe sharing like your favorite restaurant, or like talking about like, something that like most people might have in common, just to get conversations started, because sometimes it's hard to find an entry point.
Yeah.
So Flourish really was a place where I wanted women to come together to practice being friends again.
Yeah.
Because I also think our friends should become the best referral sources for us. So when I'm looking for a gynecologist, like when I'm looking for someone to do my hair, when I'm looking for a church to go to, like I can listen to, I can go to YouTube and look for that and listen to someone who I don't know tell me, or I can listen to this person I have a relationship with and get the best review of whatever this is, and then be able to experience growth or experience some progress, because I know that whatever they're sharing with me is proven.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like the world we live in, the connections aren't happening like they used to. I feel like we're isolated. We scroll on the phone and feel connected, but it's a really lonely place to be. Maybe a year ago, I read the book Finding Your People by Jenny Allen.
Okay.
And then I got on my knees and I asked the Lord to help me find my people, because my friends became who my kids were playing soccer with and who they were going to dance with. It became situational friends, which those are they're great people. I'm so thankful the Lord put them in my life. But my kids are not in school anymore. Like they're adults. And so I had to kind of figure out like, who are my people and who am I really connected with? Like if something were to happen, horrible to my face. Who is going to be the one at my front door? And I was struggling with that. And so I got on my knees and I asked the Lord to help me find my people. And what I didn't know is that he was going to really help me find my people.
Oh, wow.
So I think if someone's listening to this going, I want to connect, but I don't even know how to do it, get on your knees and ask the Lord to help you connect, right?
Absolutely.
He just wants us to be connected. So if I live here in Tulsa, how would I find out about your events?
If you're in Tulsa, you can find our events usually on our website.
Okay.
So at joychristiancounseling.com. I always put them on eventbrite.com as well.
Okay.
And on our Instagram, Joy Christian Counseling.
Okay. And anyone is welcome?
Anyone is welcome. Our Flourish events are focused on women.
Okay.
And our counseling practice, we see women, we see children, we see men, we see families. And so our goal is to make sure that we're pairing people with people who are in line with their purpose and their calling.
Okay, I love it. And as far, do those events cost money? Your Flourish?
It depends. It depends. Sometimes when we're doing exercise events, it may be the cost of going to one of the gyms. We at some point went to row classes. We did boxing classes. We did spin classes. And so sometimes we were able to get good deals and, maybe get the first class for free. Other times we have done devotionals together. And so we would meet at a coffee shop. And so we would just read and really process the word for our lives. And then we would do friendship mixers. And so sometimes it's like, $15 for an entry fee. But the goal really is to make it a low barrier for people to experience connection.
Yeah. Well, and I think you had a guest speaker when I came, which I learned a ton from her too.
Yes, Jeanette Berry.
Yes. She was fabulous.
Yes.
So, okay. So I also know you've written a lot of spiritual journals.
Yes.
That is going to be our next podcast because I really want to talk about those and what that looks like and how families can use those. But we always close our podcast. We kind of wrap it up with a scripture.
Okay.
We like to turn our families back to the truth because we know it never changes. Our days might change, but the word doesn't. And so do you have something you would like to share?
One of my favorite scriptures from childhood has been delight yourself in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. And for me, that has taken new turns because I always thought that meant that God would tell you, exactly what to do in your life. Like just, spend time with God and he'll tell you what to do. Or that whatever you want, he'll give you. And over time, I've really learned that learning to become satisfied with God really changes my desires.
Love that.
And so I really do believe that it means God will give you what to want. And so my life really is dedicated to helping people to really learn to delight in the Lord, to appreciate the sunrise that obeys God every single day. And when we can delight in that and we can appreciate who God is through his creation, which is his kids and through nature, I really do believe it starts to change what we want in life. And so that's one of my favorite scriptures.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your wisdom. It was such a short time, but there was just so many good nuggets in it. I want our listeners to know that they can go to your website. So it is joychristiancounseling.com. Yep. And just your website alone, when I went to it, I was like, yes, I love this. There's so much good things on there. And you also have a resource page on there.
Yes.
With some great resources. And then those spiritual journals, which we are going to talk about in our next podcast.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Joy.
You're welcome.